Hello, my name is Andrew Pushlar, and this is my submission to the Suicide Prevention App Challenge. Before I begin, I'd like to give a special thanks to Jane McCune of the Collaborative Solutions Network for her help in designing this app and for also giving me access to the 211 Tompkins County Emergency Services database. So my approach to this project was to build an Android app which can run on Android phone or tablet, a minimum required version 3.0. There wasn't enough time to build the whole thing again for the iPhone and iOS devices, but what I did instead was build a website application which can be run on any device, iPhone, iPad, Windows tablet, or laptop, desktop browser. The size you see here is roughly the size of an iPad right now, but it could be reduced to the size of, say, a phone or even like an iPod Touch. I was testing this out in an iPod Touch and it works just fine there. For the most part, the Android app and web application present the content and features the same. The main difference is how the safety plan is handled. The Android app stores the safety plan data directly inside the app after you've built it, and then presents it in this nice formatted presentation. For the web application, the safety plan is generated as a PDF, and then you can store it to your device and access it however you'd like. So note that where the features are the same, I'll be using the web application for this demonstration. The reason for that is that the Android emulator on this computer is very slow, and just to kind of keep things moving along, I'll just use the web application side, and then I'll go back to the Android emulator to show you the features that are unique to the Android app. So as you can see in the emulator, I've already downloaded the app. So let's start it up. And this is our first time running the app. We have yet to create an account. It's a welcome screen asking you to either create an account by entering your email address and creating a password, or if you already have an account, to do the same thing, and it will sync up your device with your existing account. And then on the right, we go to the web application. Same idea. It's a login screen, or click here to create a new account. You enter your email address and your password. Note that the Android app asks you to retype your email address where the web application does not. The reason is the Android app, once you create your account, it stores your credentials in the app. So every time you start the app or restart the app, you won't need to log in again. So it wants to make sure that you've got your information correct the first time around. So the account information is stored in a web server. The reason I did this rather than make everything native is because there might be times where the user wants to access the account or emergency services through a different device or a computer, or maybe might get a new phone or lose data, for example. This way it's always available, can always be retrieved. So I'll use the web application to demonstrate the process of creating your account and building your initial safety plan. Then I'll use the Android emulator to demonstrate the process of syncing your device to your existing account and downloading your existing safety plan. So the first thing I'll do is create an account using my email address and creating and retyping my password. And it takes you to the first step of building your safety plan. The process to build your safety plan is exactly the same on both the web application and the Android app. So again, I'm just using this because it's faster than the emulator. So let's get started. Step 1, stressors and triggers. Currently or in the past, following stressors or triggers have been associated or have caused me to consider harming myself or to attempt suicide. So you just check off the ones that are appropriate. And at the bottom you can add your own trigger. So I'm going to do test trigger 1, test trigger 2. Step 2, warning signs. The interface is exactly the same as the triggers. You check off those that are appropriate. And then if you have additional ones not listed, warning sign, test, and then coping tools. Same process, check those that are appropriate. And test coping tool. And then step 4, save people in places. Places I can go to provide distractions. I'll do place number 1, place number 2. And people I can call to provide distraction. You'll see there's a note that you should add these to your crisis support list as well. You'll see that in the next step. So person number 1, and then a phone number, just fake numbers. Number 2. And then people called by my current crisis. Again, they should be added to your crisis support list. And then keeping my environment safe. You want to make sure that I remove all firearms, other potentially harmful items. I properly dispose of medications not currently prescribed. I limited the amount of over-the-counter medications I have. I am making use of a pill box for my own safety. And the final step, crisis support. You'll see that National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is there. That's there by default and can't be removed. So we can add one. So test person number 1, phone number. What I need this person to do, just testing right now. And I'm going to add another one. Test person number 2. Again, just testing again. And after you've added them to a list, you can, if you need to change something, you can do that or remove that person. But for now, we'll just say we're done. And since this is the web application, it asks you to download your safety plan as a PDF. And in this case, I'm actually going to open it just so we can see what it looks like. And you can see it makes a nicely formatted safety plan. You have a table of contents. Page 2 is a description of what the safety plan is for. Page 3 has your stressors and triggers, including your additional ones, warning signs, coping tools, safe people and places, and your crisis support lines. Okay, so now let's go to the Android app. And again, I'm not going to create a new account, but I'm going to sync up the app with the existing account. So type in the same email and password as I used to create the account. And it says your account is ready. Press OK to continue. And in just a second, here we go. Safety plan appears. It has what is this, which is like page 2 of the PDF explaining what your safety plan is and what you use it for. And here's my stressors and triggers, my warning signs, my coping tools, safe people and places, and my crisis support number. And you notice the green button here for the phone is the same as the one in the lower left corner. They both do the same thing, which brings up the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and the ones you've entered. Plus, for now, I have tech support, my number in there. Obviously, if this goes national, there would be a national tech support number to use instead. And to test it, to make sure that the safety plan has been stored in the app, I'm going to shut it down, restart the app, which will take me to the welcome page that displays a random affirmation quote at the bottom in blue. I have about 10 of these stored in the app. This can be expanded to how many you need. And every time you restart the app, a different quote displays. I go to safety plan. You can see my data is there, including the numbers. And if you click a number, it will launch the phone, which should be a given in these kind of things. I'll go back to here. And let's move on to the additional features in the app. I'm going to click on the Connect menu in the Android app and in the web application. Note that the icons on the left here are the same as the icons along the bottom. These icons at the bottom will take you directly to that feature rather than having to go to the Connect menu first. The only difference between the Android app and the web application is the logout button here. The Android app does not require logging in and logging out every time you run the app, so the logout button obviously is not necessary. So you'll see there are two emergency services links, one for SAMHSA and one for 211. I looked around, and I'm sorry if I just couldn't find it, but there didn't seem to be a web service or API or any way of using the SAMHSA data directly in the app. I tried actually doing a post call from the web server and then parsing the results. It got a little messy. So for now, SAMHSA just launches in a new window, or from here it launches the web browser from the phone or tablet device. Again, it's the emulator, so it runs a little slow. But you can see it starting to go, so I'm just going to cancel out of that. So as a demonstration of how the SAMHSA database could be used within the app, I'm using the Tompkins County 211 database, which is obviously local to Tompkins County, but it's very similar types of services and programs. Let me just get both of them running here because there's a little bit of a difference in how they work. So you can either enter your search terms or select from the drop-down list, and you can see here you can see little demonstrations or explanations of what these all are. So for example, if I'm looking for help with depression, I'll start typing that in, and the search will return, or the drop-down list will return any keyword that matches your search string, followed by any keyword whose description matches your search string. So I'm just going to pick depression, and it brings up all the services that match that keyword, or if I can also choose it from list. And again, we'll bring up the list of all services matching that. And depending on what information each service has provided to 211, you can get an email link, a phone, and again on the Android app that will launch a phone call, or Google Maps. In the Android app, this will launch the mobile version of Google Maps. And of course, if you're on an iPad or iPhone, on the web app, it will launch the mobile version of Google Maps. Otherwise, it will launch the regular Google Maps. And just to restate that this is only local services for Tompkins County, but the program has been put in place for a national version of this that will filter the results based on the user's zip code. And we'll get to the zip code part when we get to the account settings. So let's move on to the next item, which is the mood journal. So the purpose of the mood journal is to give the user a quick and easy way to record his or her thoughts and feelings and moods at any given time, as often as he or she would like to do it, and then periodically email a chronological list of moods to his or her therapist or provider when necessary. So let's add a new entry, and you get a list of emoticons and what their names are. I'll click anxious. My thoughts or presentations make me nervous. Okay. And there it shows up in your journal. It shows the date, time, your mood, along with the emoticon matching it, and then any notes that you enter. The notes are optional. Let's add another one. Awesome. I'll just do it like that. So you don't have to have anything in there. So the idea is to try as quickly as possible, make it easy for the user to put things in. So you see this email icon here and here. This is to email a list of your journal entries to your therapist or provider. You enter the email address of your provider. In this case, I'm just going to enter my own. And then you select a date. If you choose, for example, July 10th, it's going to include every entry from July 10th through the current date. It doesn't really matter what we put in right now because we only have a couple entries from today. But then you just click Email Journal Entries, and it gets sent over. Let me just pause it for a second. And here it is, how it looks. They get a nicely formatted spreadsheet. And it shows since whatever the date you chose, and it shows the notes and everything else. And just a quick refresh to show that since the Mood Journal and also the appointment schedule are managed on a web server, that if you go over to the Android app, these journal entries also show up over here. So let's move on to the appointment schedule, which is the little calendar icon. And the initial screen is a calendar of the current month with the current date highlighted in green. So let's say we have an appointment Tuesday, August 13th at 4 p.m. So I click on 13, date, test appointment. It defaults to the date that you selected. You can change it if you want to, but we want to keep it on 13. And time, we'll change to 12 to 4 p.m. Enter my number for now. And testing. And now the time of that appointment appears in the calendar. And since this is on the web server, it should appear here as well if I refresh. And there it is. So let's add another appointment. Let's schedule an appointment. Since I didn't select the date, I hit the button. It defaults to the current date, but I'm going to make that one the 13th as well. And we're going to call it another appointment. And we'll make it for 7:30. And put a fake number in. And now you see both the 4 o'clock and the 7:30 one there. And if you click that date, instead of bring up the form, this will actually bring up a list of your appointments for that date. You see the information, the time, a phone number. If this is running on your smartphone, you can click the number to initiate a call. You can edit it or remove it, or you can make a copy of it. So let me click test appointment copy, and all the information is exactly the same. Only going to make this one for the 20th. And there it is. Now, I played around with a more robust scheduling system. For example, if you want to do weekly appointments for the next 12 weeks or something like that. The thing was, in the environment of a smartphone, it gets a little too complex for that little screen. So instead I had the copy method that you just saw. And also, there's another way of making copies is if you click schedule an appointment and you start to type in test. You see that test appointment shows up in a drop-down. You click that, auto-fills it, and then we'll make that one for the 27th. There it is. Now, on the web server, which is storing all these appointments, there is a automated process that runs every 10 minutes and checks for upcoming appointments and notifies the user via email or text message based on the preferences, and we'll get to that in a minute with the account settings. The notification will arrive between 30 and 40 minutes before the appointment, and then another notification will arrive between 10 and 20 minutes before the appointment. And I just refreshed the Android app just to show that, again, they're both working the same way, they show the same data, and that if you click on the 13th, for example, you get the information, and if you want to call the appointment, there it is. So the next item is editing the safety plan. So you see that's the one with the little hard hat. So we click on that. Initially, it's going to tell you if you're in the web application to download as a PDF because you've already got completed, or in the Android app, it's going to ask if you want to download the safety plan data to your app. Okay, but if you need to change something, you go ahead and edit the safety plan, and the interface is exactly the same as when you build it, only everything's pre-checked, pre-filled. You can go through the whole process, and at the very end you can re-download the PDF or re-import it into your app. So the last bit is the account settings. I'm just going to click the account settings gear down here rather than going through the connect menu. So it'll take me directly to it. So it shows your email address. You can't change your email address either in the web or Android app because it is your login and it needs to be unique per account. So if you need to change it, you need to contact us, which would be whoever's running it at the time. And then you have your password here. That's probably more useful only for the web application because, again, with the Android app, once you sync up your app to your account, you don't need to log in anymore. Next is first name, which is an optional field. It's not being used anywhere. It could be used for personalization, maybe in the appointment notifications. Dear Andrew, you have an appointment coming up, something like that. But right now it's not being used for anything. Zip postal code. This is not mandatory, but should be made mandatory if it's going to be used national for the two reasons I mentioned earlier. First, the emergency services, which just shows Tompkins County services. If it's used on a national database, the zip code will be used to filter those services. Same for the appointment schedule, because of the fact that people are going to live in different time zones, the scheduler and notifications need to be synced up for the time zone. I have a database built into the web server which maps zip codes to county, state, and time zone, as well as latitude, longitude if you need to do some sort of range searches for the services. So that is all built in there. It's just not being used right now because all we have is Tompkins County local data. And finally, we have received notices via email or email and text. By default, it will send your appointment notifications via email, but you can choose email and text. Now, the reason I have email and text rather than just text is that some carriers will block automated messages sent from web servers, and it's not 100% reliable. So what happens if you choose this option, it will send a text message to your phone, but also send an email as a backup. That way, one way or another, you'll get the information. So if you want to receive text messages, you'll need to enter your area code and phone number, and then select your carrier, Alltel, AT&T, Boost, Singular, etc. And again, all the features you see here under Connect are exactly the same on the Android app, unless I've specified otherwise. The layout might be a little bit different. You saw the calendar on the Android app is a little more square looking. In fact, actually, this, when you push it down to a phone size, it will get more that layout. But other than that, these features under the Connect menu are exactly the same. And I believe that covers everything. Thank you for watching my video demonstration. Again, my name is Andrew Pushlar. You can reach me if you have any questions at 607-347-4577, or please email me at andrew@pushlar.com. Thank you.